It's the biggest crowd I've seen at a greyhound meet ever. Good luck, everyone. Slot holders, trainers, owners and fans, we're set to go. The Phoenix.
It is the Phoenix, the great race, and the countdown is on. Hello, I'm your host, James Vandermark. Welcome to episode number 2 of the Phoenix Flight Path. And I tell you what, hasn't the waters come gushing through the gates in the last week or so with the heats of the Melbourne Cup, and so much has changed ahead of the Phoenix. Smithy's even in a jumper. The weather's turned ordinary in Melbourne. How are you, Smithy? You well, my friend?
Going well, mate. Going well. I'll tell you what, I'm glad we got an episode out last week and managed to get our opinions out there, because there's been plenty of, not controversy, but plenty of contradicting opinions, which I've thoroughly enjoyed. And the Melbourne Cup heats, they change things dramatically. So the power rankings will be hotly contested again tonight. But that's why we do these things, Jim. Have a little bit of fun and give our opinions.
And it is just an opinion. And on that, social media, I reckon, went bananas. We almost went viral off episode number 1 with our power rankings, and there wasn't too much water that had gone under the bridge, obviously leading up to the Melbourne Cup heats. So a little bit's changed this week. But Blue Camaro was the name that I reckon popped up the most through the social media, suggesting that maybe he should be in our top 8. Do you have a bit of a comeback to Blue Camaro's followers out there, because there seem to be a few of them?
No, it wouldn't surprise me to see him get picked. He's a proper race dog. We saw him through the $1 Million Chase series, winning that, and then he was phenomenal in the Top Gun. I know he got beaten by probably 7.5 lengths or something in the end, but he was huge through the line, and he was massive again in the Melbourne Cup heats. So he's a dog that you certainly wouldn't discount if a slot holder wanted to pick him. So there's no knocking him. And I think we've said this previously, but there's probably 20 dogs that, or even more really, that on any given night could win a race of the caliber of a Phoenix, and that just goes to show the depth that's in greyhound racing at the moment. And I think there was nothing that personified that better than the Melbourne Cup heats over the weekend.
Well, I've got security now 24/7 out the front of my house, and they follow me everywhere I go. We're not doing power rankings in this episode, are we?
Well, I think we might have to, Jim. You've got your gated community out there at Healesville. You've got your guards at the front, the turrets up the top with the armed guards. I think you'll be all right up in the palatial mansion up in the hills of Healesville.
Yeah, the old snipers, eh? Looking after me. What about the return of Schillaci? We will do power rankings, by the way, but the return of Schillaci, last year's winner, I feel like Ladbrokes almost have to go and pick him now because of the fairy tale that happened with Wow, She's Fast. Year 1, she wins it. Year 2, maybe not going as well. There was, I guess, a bit of chatter around that she might not be up to a Phoenix, and then she comes out and finds a way to win it. So, and then goes down in history as one of the greatest greyhounds of all time. So imagine if Ladbrokes pair up with Schillaci. And I know Ladbrokes are huge on the social media front and doing stories about racing. Well, they've got their own story right in front of them if it works.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he'd be certainly in consideration after that run. And whether rightfully or wrongfully, Schillaci's probably been one of the more talked about greyhounds, one of the greyhounds that people are willing to knock, one of the greyhounds that people are willing to pump up. And there's usually 1 or 2 camps and there's no in between with him. But to be able to have that sort of run when it matters, he's won a Phoenix, he's placed in a Oz Cup as well. He's now made a Melbourne Cup final. That is a resume that only good dogs have, and he's certainly one of those. So I'm sure Ladbrokes and probably the other slot holders as well have taken notice and told he's getting him right at the right time. I think he might have got the little Phoenix Flight Path podcast bump after appearing last week.
I think so. I think he realised that he needed to lift his game, old Schillaci, but he had been trialling well. And what I found the most exciting last week on episode 1 was not only the tour of the pizza shop. I thought that was awesome. It was a bit hard to edit, to be honest, but I found that the wording that Schillaci's trainer, Jihad Talji, used was pretty potent. He said, I believe he's going better than he was last year. So when he got out to $15 in a heat of a Melbourne Cup, I jumped on the computer, Smithy, and I had a little bet. So I'm very, very happy with that result. I thought he'd be a $7 chance, and I'd probably take him on in the Melbourne Cup heat, drawn 7, but once he got out to $15, overs betting, you just have to have some kind of a play on him. Now, Smithy, we're going to chat week to week as the podcast rolls on toward the Phoenix this year of 2024. On December 21, we're going to chat to Jason Thompson a bit later in the show. He is one of the slot holders with his powerhouse kennel, Team Thompson, but I thought it'd be great to get to know, and you could tell us a little bit about a few of the slot holders moving toward the big dance late December.
Yeah, certainly looking forward to it. There's obviously new slot holders. There's slot holders that have been engaged previously, and they're all kind of following a sort of different path, Jim. They're looking at different avenues of picking dogs or holding off late, going early. So Melbourne Storm obviously went nice and early, and they probably need no introduction. Aaron Bain and Summit Bloodstock, they're just slot racing kings at the moment. They're in absolutely everything, which is great to see. They're obviously on the build across the three codes of syndication and Bloodstock kind of companies, and you've got Awesome Lodger who've jumped in. They've been a part of every single Phoenix, but to be able to have them committing to a race like this and seeing the benefits of being involved. You've got Total Container Solutions, who we know plenty about them from last year, and then Australian Bloodstock as well, who are one of the biggest syndicators in the game in the thoroughbred world. So I'm looking forward to hearing some of these conversations and getting their stories out there, because that is what the Phoenix is about. It's creating stories and it's creating memories for the future.
I'll tell you what, Smithy, I reckon this is why you've become so famous in the racing industry. You know why?
Why is that, Jim?
I asked you for 2 and you gave me 6, I reckon. 6 Phoenix slot holders, but that's okay.
Yeah,
now
well,
we've learned about them all.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Sometimes, Jim, I just get a little bit sidetracked and figure it's your show. So when you give me the opportunity to talk, I better take some of the time up.
Hey, mate, you get plenty of time. You're the social media rising star. There's no doubt about that. Or racing star. It's not really social media, just full-on greyhound racing media star, I should say. Not even rising star. He's already made it. Let's get to power rankings. I think this is I probably should have a stinger for this segment now because it's got so big so quick, but we'll kick it off with your 8, starting with number 8 for this year's Phoenix Power Rankings. These are the greyhounds that we believe should be getting a position in the Phoenix.
Well, I have no doubt that you're going to have some splinters and you're going to mention every greyhound that there's ever been, but I'm going to do it as well, Jim, because there's a hell of a lot of honourable mentions that probably need to be mentioned. Dogs like Miss Envy, Miss Envy, Epitomised, Blue Camaro, Schillaci. They're all sort of greyhounds that probably need to be spoken about. But from number 8, and I said this last week, I'm going to stay biased and I'm going to leave Kenya All Class in there, and I'll cop a bit of criticism for it, but I'm just going to keep being biased, and I'm going to be upfront about being biased, about putting him in my rankings. But number 7, I've got a greyhound who went around in the Phoenix last year. He retired. He went to stud and he came back, and I was very impressed with his run on Thursday night at Albion Park. He goes by the name of Jay is Jay, and I absolutely love the greyhound. I think he's back. He needs to start putting it all together when it matters, and when it does matter is on Thursday, December the 5th at Queensland for the Queensland Flame. And then I've got Lakeview Emily in there. I've got Sunset Fraser, who's coming like an absolute rocket. He's gone into slot number 5 there. Big Energy, who's also joined the fray. He's obviously in phenomenal form, arguably career best form at the moment. And then the 3 that have been locked in, Rinse the Lot, Excavation, and Explicit is my number 1 seed. So Explicit, Excavation, Rinse the Lot, Big Energy, Sunset Fraser, Lakeview Emily, Jay is Jay, Kenya All Class. But how many dogs could we continue to talk about, Jim?
I'm pretending I'm a slot holder now. I'm getting on the phone to these runners who haven't made my top 8. I'm calling Miss Envy. I'm calling Hector Fawley. I'm calling Joey the Jet. I'm calling Blue Camaro. I'm calling Field Day. I'm calling Lakeview Emily. I'm calling Flying Zulu. I'm calling Schillaci. And I do believe Jay's Jay on that return run might be able to win the Queensland Flame. But I didn't want to put the Queensland race in because it's not really power rankings. That's just looking into it too honestly, knowing that a Queensland dog's going to get in. So I've started at number 8 for the greyhound that I'm getting paid to put in there, Kenya All Class, down the bottom. He's not really paying me, our man Smithy. But to be honest, I just like the point of difference. 29.05 in a trial at Sandown Park, and then last week in a heat of the Bold Trees. I think he has to win the Bold Trees or go very close to it and really break them up to say that I'm ready for a Phoenix. But he went 30.04 off the back straight, which is right on the record. The way I looked at it, Hector Fawley, when he had a crack at 700 metres ahead of the Sandown Cup, he went 30.08 off the back, which is about the distance they take to run the Phoenix. So the way I looked at that was if this greyhound's half a length quicker at the 500 metre mark than Hector Fawley probably should have won the Phoenix last year. So that's my case for Kenya All Class. 7, my rankings have changed dramatically. I've gone with the heart because Epitomised started his racing journey at Hillsville. I love straight track racing, and he's a jet. He won his Melbourne Cup heat. He was tremendous. So I think with that Meadows form winning the Great Chase, he's proven he can do it there. He's in at number 7. 6, I've done Big Energy. I like the way he had to do it the tradesman's way on the weekend. Didn't get it all his own way, and yet he was able to grind home and produce a good win. He's in form. We know what he can do, and there was a fair bit of social media chat saying that he should be in there. So in order for me to take away a few of the guards, I put Big Energy in at number 6. 5, Tim Zoo. I'm copping a lot of flack for this, but there's something about this dog. He hasn't been able to draw a box. If he comes out in the next few weeks drawn an inside alley, I think you'll make a huge statement, and then suddenly he'll be back in the chatter as a genuine Phoenix contender. 4, I've gone Sunset Frazier. Now, it's simple. That run the other night was the most extraordinary performance I've seen from a greyhound in such a long period of time. The way I looked at it, when Fernando Bale won his heat of the Melbourne Cup, he went 491, 1841. This dog went sub 5 and then broke the record at 18:35 down the back. So if you're a length in front of Fernando Bale off the back straight, really you're number 1. You're the first seed going into the Phoenix. So he will be picked. There is no doubt about that. I think it'll happen this week. Rinse the Lot obviously locked away. Excavation locked away. I still feel sorry for Team Thompson not getting him into the Melbourne Cup. I think he was the equal second quickest dog of the night, and yet the brutal nature of the race, he doesn't get in, and number 1 Explicit after his dominant Melbourne Cup heat victory. So my top 8 for the power rankings this week. They will change, don't doubt that. Kenya All Class at 8, 7 Epitomise, 6 Big Energy, 5 Tim Zoo, 4 Sunset Frazier, 3 Rinse the Lot, 2 Excavation, 1 Explicit. Get on the phone, though, to Miss Envy, Hector Fawley, Joey the Jet, Blue Camaro, Field Day, Lakeview Emily, Flying Zulu and Schillaci. And yes, they do call me Splinters.
Yeah, that's all right. That's fair enough, Jim. I think in this circumstance we can allow it because there's so many dogs that are probably capable of winning. And you just touched on, you said Sunset Frazier, you reckon it'll get done this week. That's how excited you are. I think that's just opinion-based rather than factual-based.
I've got no knowledge.
You like it, Jim. Would you? A question for you. Would you call up Team Greeno and say, I want to lock in Big Energy, and we would give you an extra little percentage if Epitomise can be our backup? Or do you think that's a little bit too risky?
I don't mind it. I think we're going to see different things from slot holders. I think we will. The only obvious concern I see is that they're owned by different parties. So, but then you have to back in your trainer. Like if for whatever reason Big Energy's not going as well, then it's up to the Greenos to say, well, we actually think Epitomise could be the dog to best represent us. And I guess that's where Team Thompson have done it well. They've thought, well, bugger this. We're not going to leave it up to fate. We're going to buy our own slot, get into the race, and guarantee that we have the runner that we want in the Phoenix. And I like that.
Yeah, absolutely. It kind of takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, doesn't it? When you've got these quality greyhounds, you buy a slot and you've kind of got options. And you see that with Team Thompson, as you mentioned. They've already got Excavation in the race outside of their own slot. And then there's dogs like Joey the Jet and, say, a Flying Zulu as well, and Field Day, that you could keep naming them. They've still got options, and they've still got ways that they can kind of get other dogs into the race, which I think makes it so exciting. And I'll tell you what, this could be the best edition of the Phoenix if all these dogs are still going well enough in about a month's time.
As I let you go, Smithy, do you reckon in Australia, in Victoria, in maybe, I think they've called it the most livable city in the world in years gone by, we've got the best sporting events, the best racing in my opinion, the best of everything. The viewers of this podcast are going to be a little bit annoyed that your little head's bouncing around a little bit throughout the show because our Zoom link hasn't been that clean. But where I live, I'm under an hour from the metropolitan bubble, all right? An hour to the city, and the internet connection. I know I go on about this quite on the regular, but how can we be spending $500 billion, trillion on roads that only the people in the city like you are going to use? The country folk like us can't even get on the internet, Smithy. I can't even put a bet on from my house, and yet we're spending that kind of money on roads. Surely there should be a minor investment to get some internet out to Jimmy's house. Surely.
I reckon that if you started taking pay cuts on some of these media gigs, Jim, there might be enough money in the economy to go round where we can afford to get you some good internet up there. But no, it is an apology, but we hope that the content is better than the quality of my bonds on Zoom to make people keep listening along.
Hey, the good news is, mate, I'm actually investing into the Starlink, so I'm going to have the big satellite on top of the ship here, and hopefully we'll have good internet by the time the Phoenix actually rolls around. And Smithy, let's be honest, I'm actually sitting in front of my computer right now, and I'm more than happy to bring up an invoice that I charged to SEN for SEN Track Tuesday night show, and I'm pretty sure my spies tell me, Smithy, that you're actually getting a little bit more than I am. I'm not sure how that works. Rising star v the superstar that is.
I think it's got something to do with the good looks that I carry, Jim, that you might be lacking in. But no, I don't know about that. I still maintain. I think there's some sneaky extra zeros added to yours after the fact. So I don't think I'm getting any more cash than
All,
what you are,
all
mate.
I know is, mate, they're getting a very good deal. Hey, Smithy, until next week, mate, episode 3, safe travelling, happy punting, have a good week, and, yeah, get the security ready because Power Rankings will be out and we'll be in strife.
Inside info.
Well, it's time for some inside info ahead of not only the Melbourne Cup, but the Phoenix. It's all happening for Awesome Lodge, as it always is. Team Thompson, a powerhouse of the sport in greyhound training. And this year they've got, I reckon they're in key position in the Phoenix, because not only have they got a couple of runners locked away, but they actually have a slot themselves. As I welcome the head boss of Awesome Lodge, Jason Thompson, who's become quite a mysterious character. We don't see much of you lately, Jace. How are you?
Yeah, good, James. No, look, the few times that I've gone to the dogs, and more recently to the Million Dollar Chase, went horrible. So they've been winning when I'm not there, and I think we'll keep it that way. I think if I stay away, they've got an even better chance of potentially winning. So we'll keep it at that.
You must be pretty proud, though. Obviously, the bulk of the family working in the racing industry. Obviously, Ben's a jockey overseas at the moment, but to have Luke and Holly doing the hard yards, I suppose, getting the dogs to the track and producing performances, it must be a nice thrill just sitting at home and watching the whole operation unravel and unravel in such a good way.
Yeah, it is, James. Look, I get more of a thrill whether I watch them taking a dog to Warragul for grade 5 or Shepparton or anywhere throughout Victoria and seeing them perform well just as much as, watching them on Saturday night. And, there was only the 2 of them. They took 8 dogs there. We had 7 of our own. We've got the She Is 5 for Mark Moroney. So it's a pretty big responsibility for 2. I call them kids, but Holly's 21 and Luke's 23, so they're certainly not kids anymore. But I think regardless, for anybody taking the dogs that they took to the track Saturday night and have them all perform the way they did was I got a big thrill out of just sitting at home watching them do it, and I thought they conducted themselves really well with any of the interviews that they give. And I think in particular Luke, he's very precise in what he says. He doesn't get carried away by anything, and he's very humble in when we win and like we've all got to do, really accepts defeat well. And I think both of them are just terrific.
Yeah, both terrific characters. There's no doubt about that. And I feel like you're the master of the kennel, sitting at home producing the winners, and they're the brains of the kennel. Because as I went to put this one to air, Jace, I saw Holly in there getting you on Zoom because you're not too good with computers. I'm surprised. I thought JT, the superstar trainer, could do anything.
No, I think technology and computers is something that I just have got no interest in. I think the more I leave that for the younger ones. I mean, obviously it's their thing, texting and all the social media that goes with it. I'm very, very basic in what I do, and I just like sitting at home. And my favourite time is just sitting on the lawnmower.
Yeah, I enjoy it too. It's a nice chance just to relax. Hey, I want to chat just very, very briefly on how you got involved in racing. I know we don't have time for a deep dive, but I'd love to do that one day in person. But I just love your story because you came from outside of the racing bubble and have become, in my opinion, the best trainer of all time that I've known. How did you do it? How did you begin?
Look, my family had no involvement whatsoever in racing, let alone greyhound racing. But we were a family that did enjoy watching horse racing, and I think from a very young age I got just the racing bug. And I think the thrill of watching racing is something that once it gets you, it's hard to get rid of. And it was something that I really enjoyed, just racing. At the time it was horse racing, and then through a chance meeting with and being introduced to Marg Long, then it transferred from horse racing into greyhound racing. And obviously anybody that's become involved in greyhound racing and become involved in just having contact with the dogs, they're just the best breed of dog you could ever be involved with. And again, once you get the bug and get attached to the actual dog, you basically got them for life. And I think that's what happens, not just with me, with a lot of people. They're just, it's such a fantastic breed. And I just really enjoy the dogs. And that's probably why being able to take a step back now with allowing the kids to do all the racing, I just sit at home and really enjoy the dogs at home, like on my own, and also sit back and just marvel at what they do in races, and it's just unbelievable. So, yeah, I was lucky that obviously get involved greyhound racing, and obviously through Margaret, and then it just progressed from there to end up, once I finished school, making a career out of it, which I think I'm very fortunate to have been able to create a career out of something that really is your hobby, and to work from home and have, the very fortunate to get the dogs that we've been given to train is just, I couldn't have asked for any more, and got a great family to work with, and it's just a fantastic industry. And as I keep saying, that they're just such an unbelievable breed, greyhounds. They're just a fantastic animal to work with.
It's a great story, and from the early days of, I think, racing and catching dogs at Terrelgan to now becoming a slot holder in $1 million race. It's an extraordinary story. And tell me a little bit about the decision for your kennel, Awesome Lodge, to buy a slot this year in the Phoenix. Obviously, you've been a part of the race, Postman Pat last year, and he ran one hell of a race. But was it just a matter of going, look, we've got fast dogs in the kennel. Let's take the guesswork and the luck out of the Phoenix, and let's have a position so we can lock our quickest dog away?
Yeah, that did have a fair bit to do with it, but also I just love the concept of the race. Right from day one, albeit that I was probably the biggest skeptic before it had even started, when the idea of a slot holders racing, greyhound racing, was sort of put out there, and I just couldn't see how it was going to work. And luckily, I had a really good talk to Gareth Hall, who was one of the, I think, key players behind introducing this concept of greyhound racing. And once I spoke to Gareth, I was just hooked, and he convinced me how it would work. And credit to him, what he said, I think, has gone above and beyond what they originally might have thought the race was going to be. I just love the concept. I think the timing of the races couldn't be better. On the eve of Christmas, the prize money obviously is massive. I can always consider the Melbourne Cup the number one race that we would try and win every year, but I think the Phoenix is equal to it. I just think it's a great race. It just is getting bigger and better every year. I love the concept of having 8 slot holders. That brings, maybe 8 different groups of people, organisations into greyhound racing, and I think that's the whole key to it. And I really believe that it's the future of a lot of racing, and there's more and more slot races in horse racing, and I can't see why we've got one in Western Australia, why we couldn't have one in nearly every state, because it's just a sensational concept. And as I said, the key, getting so many different groups and introducing new people to greyhound racing, I think really is the key. And through all that, the heavy involvement, we just wanted to try and get a slot this year, and we were lucky enough to get it. And really, with the idea, although we were fortunate to have some nice dogs at the time, it was backing in explicit. We were just backing him in that, albeit when you get the slot, it's 4 months from the race, that hopefully he'd stay sound and hold his form and get to the end of the year and be a real big player in the race. And we're not that far away now, and I think he's really right on track.
He's not going too bad, is he? Dominates in a Melbourne Cup heat, showed his absolute brilliant best. And you made a call on explicit post the $1 million chase semi, I think it was, that you think he might be the fastest dog you ever trained. Do you still stand by that? And I guess, has everything gone to script since then, heading toward the Phoenix?
Yeah, look, I don't know about the fastest, but I think he really is. I rate him possibly the best race dog we've had, and I don't think they have to win every time they go around or amass multiple Group 1 races or whatever people might see as the reason why they're the best. I just think a lot of ingredients make an animal or a competitor, you rate it very highly, and I think he's got it all. And whilst he's been beat in $1 million chase, he was favourite. He got beat in the Brisbane Cup, he was favourite. He got beat in the Top Gun, he was favourite. And that just happens. I mean, they're not easy races to win, and he's won 4 group races along the way. But what I admire about the dog, if he gets beat, we accept it. I mean, don't go making excuses for the dog, because people see through you when you're starting that. They're only animals. Once they're in the box, they're out of your control, and anything can happen. And he's every chance of going to the Melbourne Cup, and he could get beat. He could get beat in the Phoenix, but I think the way he bounces back after every defeat, he just comes out and does what he does, runs the best of the night, runs super quick time, and beats a really good field. And I think that's a mark of why I consider him, and he might only have 2 more races, the best dog that we've had, because he's just been very resilient. He's been very sound, and I just love the way he goes about his work.
Hang on, Jace. Are we just getting a green light on Racing and Sport exclusive that Explicit may only race 2 more times, the Melbourne Cup and the Phoenix, and then retirement off to stud duties? Is that what we're reading between the lines?
Look, I'll be honest. I'm not going to lie to that question. I shouldn't say if everything goes to plan. The plan is the Phoenix will be his last race, and he's going to be 3 in January, early January, and I think he's done enough. I don't think there's any more to gain for him, because his future is going to be as a stud dog. Whether he goes on races for another 6 months and wins another 2 or 3 group races, I think that's something that it's not necessary for him, because whilst that could happen, he could also injure himself. And the last thing I want to see a dog like him, that has been so good to us and could be even better to us at stud, get injured on the track. And I don't think he needs to be doing anything beyond the Phoenix. And we've sort of had discussions with this for the last few months. And in a perfect world, if he could win either a Melbourne Cup and a Phoenix and go out winning one of those, would be great. If he doesn't, it doesn't matter. He's set himself up, and I believe he'll be a better stud dog than what he was race dog.
Well, that's huge news. Exciting times for everybody who absolutely adores Explicit. He'll head to the Melbourne Cup, obviously box number 6, and then off to the Phoenix, and that'll be it for the champ more than most likely. What about Excavation? He's locked away for the Phoenix as well. And I tell you what, mate, I feel for Team Thompson. I feel for his connections with his performance the other night, because it was one hell of a run that he put together. I think he was the equal second quickest for the whole night, alongside of the kennel-mate Explicit. And yet with the brutal nature of a Melbourne Cup winners get through, he doesn't make the final. He comes up as a reserve. But you must have been so proud of his performance in defeat.
Yeah, look, I thought it was a great run, James. As you say, I mean, the concept of the race is you've got to win. And obviously the way Sunset Fraser went Saturday night, whoever runs second, and unfortunately we were in that particular heat with him, you just couldn't beat a dog that's running 28.99, 29 seconds on the lure. And I thought his effort was very brave for a dog that really is known as a leader. And how many times do we see dogs that their preference is to lead, when they don't lead, get beat 4 or 5 lengths and run a really good second to a dog that's running time like that? Yet he just put in for the whole way. I'm pretty sure he got beat under a length. And to put in an effort like that for a dog that's not his preferred racing pattern, I thought was massive. And he's not an old dog, Excavation. He was only 2 in July, so he's got plenty of time on his side. And I think that run just adds another dimension to him going forward, particularly into next year in better races, that you're not going to lead all the time, but if he can posse up, he can show with a clear run, he's still going to put in and find the line really well.
Well, mate, you're in prime position. 2 runners locked away in the Phoenix, but I feel we see Joey the Jet off the inside, box 1 in a Melbourne Cup. If he wins that, the wraps on him are enormous. There's a big chance he'll get selected, but there's one left of centre, Tim Zoo, that I reckon, Jace, in my opinion, is absolutely airborne at the moment. He's had a frustrating run of draws, and I'm just hoping for your sake and the owner's sake that the slot holders can see through those unlucky runs and just see how good he's going. Am I on the right track thinking that Tim Zoo is jet propelled at the moment?
Well, you're probably the only one, and I've got to compliment you for that. I do think you're a good judge and enjoy your commentary on dogs, because I think you pretty much nail all of them, and you've absolutely got it right with him. We know his box draw in probably his last 5 or 6 starts has been horrendous, and I mean that's something you just accept. We do remember that he did have box 1 in a semi of the Australia Cup and box 1 in the final, which we were wrapped in getting, and obviously he won the Australia Cup through box 1, but geez, last half a dozen runs, and obviously we're fortunate to know the times he's been trialling in between the races that he's been getting beaten in is just ridiculous. And I just know that this dog, and we're going to on Saturday night step him up to 600. I'd just love to see him get an inside box and show what he can do, because I know he's going as quick as any of the dogs at home, and I just think if we give him a 600 Saturday night, he finds a front, has a really good blowout, that'll just toughen him up and potentially be a dog that could go to the Phoenix, where out of the 8 dogs that are in it, or say if he got in it and 7 others, I'd say all the 7 are going to need to lead at the winning post to win, where it sort of could set it up for a dog like him that is not going to be out the back. He's got enough speed to put himself off a favourable draw, and it doesn't have to be box 1. If he draws somewhere between 1 and 4, he could put himself 3rd, 4th the winning post at the Meadows, if not closer. And I just think he's on the verge of winning another good race, and very soon. And I think very important that we can have a good clean run on Saturday night, and if that happens, and he can come out and show us, or show everyone else, what he's been showing us in trials, that'll put him right up back in calculations for maybe a Phoenix slot.
I think he's absolutely flying, mate. I was going to say g'day to Luke, but he quickly took off there. I'm not sure where he's heading to. But, hey, we appreciate you jumping on the podcast, Jason, and not only discussing the decision to get a slot, but also to be in the position that you are with already a quarter of the field locked away and maybe a few more. So good luck in the lead up to the great race on December 21, and we wish you well in the weeks ahead, and, of course, with the Melbourne Cup as well this week.
No worries. Thanks, James.
What are you really gambling with? For free and confidential support, call 1-800-858-858 or visit gamblinghelponline.org.au.